It is indeed the Anthony Cumia Show. Going to change gears for a little bit here and talk to Adam Swart. Adam Swart is the CEO of Crowds on Demand. I swear to you, I thought this was a conspiracy. I thought this was one of those conspiratorial things that people talked about, but it wasn't really happening when you saw these protests that was supposed to be grassroots protests, and people said, oh, they're paid. Those are paid people that they get from a company. And I'm like, that can't exist. It does. And we're speaking with Adam Swart from Crowds on Demand. Adam, what's up, man?
Hey, good evening, Anthony. It's great to be with you. I understand you were in New York last week, and I'm in New York this week, so I'm just sorry to miss you in person.
Yeah, it happens, and then I got stuck up there for a while, but that's a whole nother story. Adam. I want to get into this because, like I said, I thought this was something people said to discredit a protest or an organization that had gotten a crowd, a protest, a crowd of people up, and they said, oh, they're paid. They get paid. Mm-hmm. They got a service that sends people out. This is the real thing. Obviously, you're the CEO of Crowds on Demand. What is this about? How does this actually work?
This is peaceful, lawful advocacy. I like to think of myself as more of a publicist than a paid protest organizer, because what I do is organize protests that are intended to get publicity for a business, get publicity for a cause, raise awareness about somebody who's engaged in wrongdoing. The purpose of a protest is not a plebiscite, Anthony. It's not to say 300 people are out on one side and 50 are on the other side, so people are 6-1 in favor of the issue. That's not how protesting works. The purpose of a protest is to get attention for your cause, whether it's in the media, social media, or even just among the people who you're focused on in person, right? So that's the goal. And Crowds on Demand, we only do things the right way. We do things lawfully. We do things peacefully. So when you see kind of these crazy riots or whatever and people blocking roads, I just want your listeners to know that has nothing to do with me.
Well, how would you know, Adam? How would you know if you're getting people together for somebody that wants a crowd on demand, that they aren't being used on some of these, I will say, basically liberal protests that tend to pop off and get a little violent, and vandalism happens, maybe some arson and assaults. How do you know, as the CEO, that these people aren't being supplied by your company?
So I do two things. I vet my clients and I vet the people who work for us, right, and who protest for us. So I vet my clients, and part of that is to make sure that the budget fits the goal, but it's also to ensure that what we're doing is lawful and respectful and peaceful, and that those objectives match, right? Now, the politics is a whole different side, and we can get into that if you want. But the first of all, it's to make sure that it's a lawful, peaceful thing. And then the second part is like, look, we don't want to put our people, even if what we're doing is a lawful, peaceful thing, in a position of danger. So let's just say you have Antifa versus Proud Boys, and then for some reason someone wants us to do a protest in the middle of that. I would respectfully decline that, not because we're doing anything wrong, but that's just inherently going to become a very tense situation.
It's going to be a problem.
And I don't want a part of it, right? So additionally, Anthony, though, it's important to know that we also vet our people. So we have like a 20-minute sit down or a Zoom or a phone call with everybody who participates before every event. So even if you've worked with us on one or two events, if you're going to go to a third event, we still have that call. And it's to make sure, number one, you support the cause, and number two, that we reaffirm the commitment to peaceful, respectful advocacy. I've always found, my mom always used to tell me that you're always better, you are a much better advocate for yourself when you are friendly and funny than when you are mean and rude, because that just turns people off. I'm sure many of your listeners in New York City saw that viral video of this sort of hippie blocking the street, and there's a single African-American woman trying to get to work, and she's like, I'm trying to get to work, otherwise I can't pay my bills. And he's like, he doesn't really care, you know what I mean? And that turns that woman off, right? So I don't think that type of protesting is even effective, even if it were lawful.
Yeah, but quite frankly, I don't think a lot of people that are protesting in that way care if they're turning people off. I think they're there for the violence and to make news and whatnot. I got to ask you this: what do you? When did it go to being like political demonstrations? Because you said this is also a publicity thing for a company or a big celebrity event. I guess you'd want a lot of people out front of a club that's opening. When did it take this turn to start political demonstrations, calling you up and saying, hey, we need some people?
So I've been doing this for almost 15 years now. We started the business in 2012, right? So I started this business when I was still in college. And look, we get a lot of asks for different things. Now, one misnomer about us is that we primarily focus on national politics. That's not 100% true. A lot of what we do is dealing with kind of big business disputes, investor disputes, business to business, raising awareness about bad practices, or totally non-political things. I mean, we ran the Delete Facebook campaign, raising awareness about how Facebook misuses your data, turns Americans against each other, even fomented, ethnic and racial hatred for money, right? So that has nothing to do with politics. We had Republicans, we had Democrats, we had people who aren't even political, because everybody sort of agrees on this. I mean, we've taken on anti-LGBT discrimination in the pharmaceutical and insurance industry, right? So these are not political things that really have anything to do with Republican point of view, Democratic point of view. And that's honestly how I like it, because, Anthony, I'm an independent. I don't subscribe to either political party. I don't owe either of them anything, by the way. So I would rather do campaigns that don't fit into that box, where we're doing nuanced campaigns that neither of the two big sides aren't going to take on. Yeah.
Adam, let me ask you this too. Doesn't it seem a little, at the very least, insincere if somebody is at an event, whether it's political or not, that it's like almost a little phony, that they're not there for the reason that people would think they're there? It's kind of show busy.
So do we have to disclose all of our intentions now? Right? So if you go to a party, should you put on your little lapel that I'm actually at this party to get laid? I said I'm going to my friend's birthday party, but the real reason is I hope there's a hot girl that I'm going to bang,
I get what Adam.
Do we have to be obvious about all of our?
I get what you mean,
we're
but
humans here.
I get what you mean, but especially in the political forum. You'd like to think these people are out there because they're so passionate about the cause that they profess to be.
And we vet people for that. Now, what I always like to say, glibness aside, is that what we do is we compensate people enough to get them out there. And it actually, as people on the right have often found this compelling, because a lot of times, if you have a trust fund, if you're retired, you're a college professor, you have as much time as you want to go protest. But if you work a traditional kind of job or an hourly kind of job and you have kids, you actually rely on us being able to kind of compensate you for your time, or you wouldn't really have the ability to show up because the opportunity cost would be too high. So we actually facilitate people's participation in causes that they actually believe in. So I actually feel like it actually helps the sincerity. I mean, just as like a fun historical fact, in the United Kingdom, members of parliament didn't even get paid for their service until 1910, I think it was. So what happened is the people who were members of parliament were rich guys there to kind of bolster the interests of the landed gentry, right? So to me, I feel like what I do, and I don't want to sound pompous here, but I feel like I actually help democratize protests by actually giving people who wouldn't otherwise have that chance the opportunity to kind of go out. Like, let's just say it's a pro-police rally, right? A lot of those people wouldn't show up, right? Just as a fun fact, in L.A., there was this absolutely crazy leftist movement that was opposed to a bill that would stop sex offenders from camping near elementary schools, right? Jeez. And I don't know anybody on the left or the right or anyone who would think it's a good idea for sex offenders to camp near elementary schools. Right. And yet there were 300 far-left protesters that stormed City Hall. Guess how many people were at City Hall on the side of passing the bill? No one. Why? Because it's self-evident that should be there, but it's not, Anthony. And for ordinary common sense causes to prevail, you need people to show up, and we help the common sense people turn out.
Now, this brings up a good point with what you just said. Do you turn down organizations that are looking for people?
All the time. I mean, sometimes it's for as simple as budgetary reasons, but also if I'm not aligned. Now, just to be clear, I don't have to be 100% agreed on the message, right?
Right.
I don't know whether you agree with all the advertisers on WABC, but I
love them all, Adam. I love them all. I use them all.
I love the anti-texting by driving one. I love that one. I would love to work with them, by the way, if they're listening. I hate texting and driving.
I hate it too. Never do it.
So I would look at it as, think of whatever WABC's standards are for advertisers. WABC doesn't have to 100% agree, but I'd imagine Mr. I can't even say the name, Katsimadis would have to not find it completely repulsive for him to take that advertising.
Right, I got you. No, it's business. Business is business, Adam. I got you. And here's the most interesting part of what's going on in your world, Adam, is that you are looking for some type of oversight here when it comes to who is financing these groups. Like if somebody comes to you and needs some people for whatever it may be, that people should know where that money is coming from. And this sounds like a good thing. This sounds like something that we need transparency in, because there's plenty of speculation that some pretty nefarious people and groups are funding some of these get-togethers.
Yeah, and there were, and I would name them right now, but I don't want to get sued, so I won't. But because it would be speculative. But the thing is that yes, and what we need is the Transparency in Political Demonstrations Act. It's something I've introduced in Congress, and of course, Congress loves transparency, which is why they're going to pass it tomorrow. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, of course.
But they are unfortunately it's stalled. But what we want is, I want to know for any large demonstration, so over 500 people, so it's not going to restrict your ordinary person who's organizing 10 of their friends, but large demonstrations with 500 or more people, I want all the donors from top to bottom, so that I want to see the whole chain, and then I want all the vendors from top to bottom. I want to see the whole chain, right? So I want to know everybody gets a paycheck, and I want to know everyone who writes that check. And what that's going to help us do is, number one, it's going to give us transparency, but number two, I think it's going to help the American people understand that any rally that you see that's big enough to get on TV and be kind of widely covered in the media and therefore make a big national political difference is funded by big interests on the right or on the left, whether it's Adelson, whether it's Hoffman, whether it's Laurene Powell, Jobs, I mean, whoever it is, Soros, like whoever those people are, the biggest donors, right? These are the people who are funding this stuff, and they're not always funding it directly, but they're often sort of in some respect providing those resources. It's
very rare that a company asks the government for oversight or restrictions or stuff like that. Is this potentially damaging to your bottom line? And if so, why would you do it?
Well, see, some people might think that, but I actually think that once people actually understand that every protest is bought and paid for, then I think they'll better understand it, like the Super Bowl ad, right? Like when you go to see a Super Bowl ad, you don't think, oh, that's just a bunch of genuine people that just came up and the ad just materialized, right? You know, that was Pepsi, that was Dunkin' Donuts, that was, GoDaddy that spent $10 million, $20 million to make that happen, right? No, it could be a good ad, in which case maybe you buy the product. It could be a crappy ad, in which case you disregard.
I think you're jaded here, though, Adam, because I don't think a lot of people know that a lot of these protests are bought and paid for. If you say that, you sound very cynical, very kind of black-pilled. But I think a lot of people are still under the impression that when they see people protesting, they sincerely are very passionate about the cause.
Oh, I think they are. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. I think someone could be getting compensated and be compensated. Just as, they compensate you for doing the show. You are an extremely passionate person in your work. I listened to a little bit of your radio, and I assume you get paid. I don't know what you get paid, but you're
not enough, Adam. Not enough. Can I get a crowd of people to get in front of WABC radio and carry signs that say
money for you?
More money for Anthony?
Anthony, what would work better for that is if we had people out there demanding that you be canceled for being too offensive.
Oh, right. The old switcheroo. Well, I've had that before. I've had that before. It's not fun. So I think I'll just stick. We'll just call it even then.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
So how is this progressing? Are you getting any feedback from the government as far as looking into this?
First, they're in the stage of ignoring. What I'm hoping is that this gets enough media coverage where it becomes unignorable. And that is what this really requires, is it needs to get enough coverage where it becomes unignorable, and then they can't just sort of like say, oh, well, it's in committee, oh, we're thinking about it, or throw various procedural objections toward it. So that's what we need, because and by the way, I don't think I've myself as jaded, because maybe I'm so jaded that I'm a very optimistic person, and I really believe in this country, but we're a capitalist country. We always have been, and that's a beautiful thing. But those with money, from the railroad barons to the, lumber barons, like all the barons of industry have always had outsized influence over things. I mean, you think that, and by the way, so it's not new. I mean, the government had a hand in the civil rights movement. Big donors were involved in the Tea Party and then the gay rights, and there was a lot of genuine people involved in the gay rights movement. There were a lot of genuine people involved in the Tea Party. So I think that what it's important that your listeners understand is that the fact that there's money behind a movement and there are people being paid is is actually a necessary part of getting public consciousness toward a movement. I'm sure you and your listeners can think of a lot of amazing causes that should be talked about, but because they've never gotten the funding necessary to be talked about, they've basically languished in obscurity. And so when you think about the gay rights movement or the Tea Party or whatever, whether you agree with those or not, those have a lot of genuine people involved, MAGA, for example, but there's a lot of money behind it too. And I don't think those things actually negate each other.
Well, this is a really amazing thing. I think you turned down $20 million to provide demonstrations for the Good Trouble Lives On protests. This seems to be some type of civil rights protest that was going on about a year ago or so.
No, it was. It was about a year ago, but it wasn't it was kind of a liberal, kind of anti-Trump movement. And by the way, I'm not a pro-Trumper either. Like I'm very independent. I just didn't think it was going to be effective. I just want to be clear so that people don't think I'm more magnanimous than I am. It wasn't $20 million in my bank account, tax-free. It was $20 million in revenue against which there'd be a bunch of these protests. So I just want people to understand that I didn't turn down $20 million tax-free in my bank account. I mean, that would have been a different conclusion.
That's a hard sell, Adam. A lot of people hear that and go, I never get the opportunity to turn down $20 million no matter what it looks like. But I get you. Okay. But why did you turn it down?
So I think the thing is with that is it wasn't going to be effective. It was basically the same group of people. I mean, they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right? Which in and of itself is an overused quote. But but the reality is that's what it was. It's like, okay, if you're going to oppose Trump, right, you don't come at this with the same group of people who were at the Pussy Hat riots, Pussy Hat events, right, and who were at all these BLM, whatever, and it's like, okay, you're turning out the same people. Well, that's just going to have the same result, right? What you need to do, I always tell my clients this in any kind of thing, is you want to engage in asymmetric PR, right? So if you come after the right, you want to come after the right from the right. If you want to come after the left, you come after the left from the left, because that's far more effective.
Right.
You never take on the right from the left. And my concern with this was you're taking on the right from the left, which actually helps the right. It's similarly to what I said, is if somebody said cancel Anthony Cumia because he's too insensitive and we need people who are less insensitive on the radio, right? I don't think that would work.
You have heard my show.
Yeah, I have. And you are who you are, right? And the reality is that wouldn't work. right? So the thing is that you need to come, if you're going to take on the right, you need to take the right on from the right. And similarly, you need to take the left on from the left, right? So if you come at a liberal and say, Mayor Mamdani, you are a socialist, right? You are anti-business, right? You'd say, yes, I am anti-business, right? Okay, next question, right? But if you say, Mayor Mamdani, what you are doing is hurting the Latino community because it's hurting Latinx-owned businesses and you're putting them at risk, okay, well, that's actually a line of attack that might be damaging to him. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because if you're just saying Mamdani is a socialist, right? Well, that's not going to work, right?
That's not going to work, right? I hear you.
So
Adam, I got to take a quick break. Stick around. We'll have you on for another segment until the top of the hour. We'll be back with more of Adam Swart in a moment. The Anthony Cumia Show. We're talking with Adam Swart from Crowds on Demand, the head muckety-muck over there. Adam, I want to ask you, what have you seen in the past, how long you say you've been doing this, 15 years?
Almost 15 years, yes.
Okay. What have you seen in those 15 years that is the big differences in demonstrations from then until now?
The biggest is social media. I mean, of course, social media was around at that time.
Yeah.
But the goal the clients would come in is with that time was, I want to get, if it's a local demonstration, I want to get to local news. Bigger demonstration, you want to get on Fox or CNN or whatever. Now there are these sort of micro niche demonstrations that can really go viral within a certain group, maybe, and not just right and left. Sure, there's that, but even beyond there, within specific sects, and go viral there and accomplish a lot without really having national prevalence.
Hey,
right?
Hold on, because that gives me another question here for you. Do you have people that you can put out there for a fee that are influencers that go down with cameras and they can get videos to go viral on their accounts?
Yeah, we arranged that. I mean, it's not something we did when we started, but it's something that has been so in demand from our customers that we have started doing that. Correct.
I can imagine that would be pretty, I don't want to use the word aggressive, because that sounds kind of violent, but I would think those people would want to get that good clip, get that maybe a confrontation, because that's really what goes viral. A peaceful protest ain't getting any eyes on it, Adam. But if you got a little altercation sparking up, a couple of groups throwing things at each other, some tear gas, wouldn't that be something?
I don't find that. Well, I kind of disagree. I think what really does well. I mean, sure but that ultimately doesn't advance your movement. So my thing is, I'm actually writing a book on this, and if
you're an anarchist, liberal,
sure. Okay,
militant,
yes, but I'm not really working with the anarchists, right? So
okay.
So yes, if you're an anarchist, maybe that's your goal. But I'm generally working with people with a clear, cogent objective. So I like to keep the eye on the prize. So generally, this is one of the big things that actually protest organizers forget, Anthony, is keep your eyes on what the actual objective is. Your objective isn't to get media. Media is a means to an end, hopefully. Media is a means to actually accomplishing objective. Okay, we want more police funding. Maybe we want better schools. We want more funding for our subway system, right? Like, what is the actual goal? The media is a means, is a part of a tactic to get to that goal. So,
I'll tell you, Adam, I don't think I've ever seen a demonstration for more police funding, but okay, continue.
There needs to be.
Well, it certainly does.
Yeah.
Especially in a wonderful place like New York.
Well, they need more police funding in New York and almost everywhere else in the country because the number of police officers per capita has declined, and the actual reality of that is that it actually increases the acts of police brutality to have fewer police officers because they're more likely to do something wrong when they're outnumbered than they are when they actually have sufficient staffing. So I actually think that responsible and well-funded police goes together, and it's actually something I'm very interested in taking on.
I hear you. Adam, thanks so much, man. Where do you hail from? Where are you out of?
So California. So we're I travel nationwide, and I'm in New York. We do a lot of work out in New York, but we work nationwide. And even do select international engagements from time to time.
All right, you got anything you want to let the people know before we cut you loose?
Well, sure. If you want to check us out, www.crowdsondemand.com. And I said I'm upfront with my intentions. So the number one intention of coming on this show was to actually dispel so much of the misinformation that's gone online about my business. So I hope I succeeded in doing that with you and your audience.
Awesome, man. You sound like a pretty square guy. You like, straightforward, no agenda, make some money. No one's going to fault anybody for making a dime these days. I like it. Adam Swart, Crowds on Demand. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, be well, and good luck with everything, my friend.